My name is Sylvia Lentas. I'm the bottle aversion coach. I have babies who refuse to drink from the bottle even though they are hungry. Bottle aversion is when babies have an adverse reaction to the bottle, so they scream, arch back, they just protest against bottle feedings. They get upset in the feeding position and they go hours and hours without feeding, and mostly they drink when they are drowsy or asleep. I'm creating this course to prevent this because when I was pregnant, I learned about breastfeeding. I was prepared. I was even offended when somebody bought me bottles as a gift because I thought I'm just going to breastfeed. And about bottle feeding, the most common advice is just make the bottle, give it to the baby, that's it. And then about breastfeeding, there are courses. I went to a course, I learned about how to do and what to expect. And I couldn't breastfeed, so I ended up bottle feeding my baby. And there were no resources about bottle feedings. And I didn't even think about learning about bottle feedings because I thought, oh, just give the baby the bottle, that's it. And I caused my baby bottle aversion because of my ignorance. So I'm creating this course to fill that gap, to provide something for you, for all the mamas who wanna do their best to feed their baby in a way that won't cause any issues, and to enjoy bottle feedings and still bond with your baby. Mindset. I want to talk about mindset. You may think it's not related to bottle feeding, but it is. It's a huge thing in my experience working with babies who have bottle aversion, that parents' mindset plays a huge role in this issue. So, volume. Like when you are breastfeeding, you don't know how much your baby drinks. So, naturally, breastfeeding mamas don't worry about milk intake. Sometimes, yes, when the baby drinks for just a few minutes, pops off a lot, yes, but in the majority of the time, breastfeeding moms don't worry about intake because they just don't know. You could weigh the baby after every feeding, before and after every feeding, but it's not sustainable, so they just fine. But with bottle feeding comes the knowledge, knowing how much your baby drinks, and that can create anxiety, especially if your doctor or health visitor tells you your baby must drink 30 ounces or 900 ml a day in order to gain weight appropriately. And then let's say your baby drinks only 26 or 28. It doesn't have to be a big difference, but any difference can create huge anxiety, and that will lead to pressuring. You will push your baby to drink more to meet that number because naturally you are worried about your baby. You want your baby to gain weight, to develop appropriately. You want to feed your baby enough. So it leads to pushing your baby to drink more, and that typically leads to feeding issues. So that's why I want to talk about mindset. So yes, there are general recommendations of how much your baby should drink at what age, and I'm not going to talk about those on purpose because I don't want to add to this anxiety how much your baby should drink. And I believe that babies are different. And yes, there are general guidelines, but not every baby will fit in it. Just imagine as adults, we don't eat the same amounts. We may be at the same weight or even height, but I may eat more than you, or I may eat less than you, and we have the same weight and the height. And maybe there is a general recommendation how much we should eat, but we don't all eat the same. Babies are the same. One day they may eat less, one day they may eat more, and maybe there is an average, maybe there is not an average. Like my daughter, her volume varied since birth. Some days she ate more, some days she ate less. Even now she's 4 years old. Some days she eats like a bird, and the other days she eats like, don't know, an elephant. I don't know how much elephants eat. So yes, please look at your baby as a person, not as a machine. And please don't let doctors, health visitors pressure you in a way that you would feel obliged, or you would feel it's necessary to pressure your baby to drink more when your baby needs less. A good way to measure if your baby has enough or not, when you go to your weight checks, and then if your baby is gaining weight appropriately with the amount she has, then she drinks as much as she needs. If she's not gaining appropriate weight, then yes, discover what's behind it, what's the cause. It's not necessarily that you have to push your baby. Most of the time, it's not that. Your baby may have underlying issues. I would check for tongue tie, reflux, or maybe cow milk protein allergy, something that's underneath, something that's causing your baby to drink less than they need, because naturally they will drink as much as they need, and you can trust your baby with the volume. How often should you feed your baby? There's a question, feeding on demand or feeding on a schedule. It's best to feed on demand if you know your baby's hunger cues. Hunger cues can be confusing. Sometimes, or many times, babies show the same cue for feeding, or for hunger, for sleeping, or tiredness, or for comfort, wanting to have comfort. So it may be confusing if your baby is hungry, sleepy, or just wants to be held. But if you know that your baby is hungry, then it's best to feed on demand. Now, what if your baby's hunger cues are confusing? Then I'd recommend feeding on a schedule until you learn your baby's hunger cues. So, how to feed on a schedule? I would start with a 3-hour schedule. So, you would start, let's say, at 7 a.m. and then feed your baby, and then offer the bottle again at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m., so on. But this is just a base. So you would start with 3 hours, and then you would notice, oh, maybe your baby gets fussy 2 hours 45 minutes after the previous feed. Then you could offer every 2 hours 45 minutes. Or you notice, oh, your baby is not that hungry at the 3-hour mark, then you would go up 3 hours 15 minutes, 3 hours 30 minutes, up until 4 hours you could go, and experiment with what your baby likes. Pay attention to your baby, and then create your own schedule. So don't look at other babies, don't look at this course that I said 3 hours. This is a base, so I would like you to pay attention to your baby and work with your baby as a team. So that's a general advice, to always work with your baby, not know better than your baby. That was my mistake. I knew better than my baby. I thought I am the adult, so of course I know how much she should eat, and I should be the one controlling how much she eats. I was wrong, and I paid for it with that amount of anxiety and stress I went through when my baby refused to drink, even though she was hungry. So always work with your baby. How to offer the bottle to your baby. Whether you feed on demand or on schedule, it will always start with putting your baby in a feeding position. Whatever feeding positions you choose, or you try out, or you use all the time, you already know, then put your baby in that feeding position and give your baby some time to settle. Like 20 seconds is plenty, just to give her a little time to settle. And make sure your baby is calm. If your baby is crying or too fussy, then it's best to calm her down, because You may know that she's hungry, and in those cases, it's okay. But if your baby is always crying or crying a lot before feeding begins, your baby can link bad feelings to bottle feedings, and that can cause problems later. So it's best to calm your baby before you offer the bottle, apart from that few percent of the time when your baby is crying because too hungry. So make sure your baby is calm, and then no distraction, no playing with your baby, no bouncing, no any type of distraction has to stop at this point. And then show your baby the bottle, and then you can say something, or you don't have to. We just want your baby to look at the bottle so she knows that feeding is about to happen. So you can ask, oh, do you want your baba, or you want some milk, whatever you want to say. And then you look at your baby and look for her reaction. If she's neutral or positive, then approach your baby's face and see if she opens her mouth. Or if she gets fussy, turns her head away, then don't even try to feed. Then calm your baby down and try again in a few minutes. But let's say your baby is neutral or positive, she wants to drink, then you would approach her mouth slowly and wait for her to open. If she opens her mouth, then start to feed. And if she doesn't open her mouth, then take it as a no. Your baby doesn't want the bottle in that moment. So put the bottle down, and then you can play with your baby a little bit, or you can get her out of the feeding position and try again in 2 minutes just to see if she would take it. So let's say this time your baby didn't open her mouth, so you would put the bottle down. You can keep your baby in the feeding position and play with her for 1 or 2 minutes, and then offer again. Show her the bottle. Would you like your baba? And then wait. And if she is neutral or positive, then approach her mouth. And if she opens her mouth, start feeding. If she doesn't, then again put the bottle down and wait another 2 minutes or so. Let's say at this time she opened her mouth, so you start feeding, and then after a while she turns her head away or pushes the bottle away with her hand or with her tongue. However she lets you know she's done, remove the bottle and take another break. So offer 3 times at a time. So whether your baby takes the bottle on the first offer or the second offer or both, you could still offer 1 more time. So let's say your baby took the bottle on the second offer and she drank some, she didn't finish the bottle, she drank a little or a lot, then put the bottle down and then play with her, keep her in a good mood. We want the baby to feel good throughout the whole feeding process. It's good for your baby and it's good for you. And this will be a fun time, a bonding time for both of you if you are both in a good mood. So let's say 2 minutes up, then you stop playing, no distraction, and then offer the bottle 1 more time. So ask, would you like your baba? And then wait for your baby's reaction. And then if she's neutral or positive, approach her mouth. And if she's not, then she doesn't want it. Let's say she was neutral, you approached her mouth, and then she took it again and she drank some more. And then once she's done, then you just remove the bottle and end the feed. If your baby refuses all 3 offers, hold yourself back from trying more and pushing your baby to take it at that time, because if you are going by hunger cues, maybe it was for something else, or if you're going by schedule, your baby may be not ready yet. So give your baby some time, half an hour to an hour, and then offer again. So this would be the process every single time you offer the bottle. And this will ensure that you're working with your baby, as I mentioned before, as a team, and you pay attention to him, and then he will let you know if he wants the bottle or not at that time. And then you would develop trust and he will develop trust. So you will both trust the feeding process, and this will ensure that you will have a good, enjoyable experience throughout your bottle feeding journey. I talked about pressuring before, and this is the part where I want to go in depth, because pressuring is what causes long-term feeding struggles. Yes, your baby may have medical conditions like reflux, tongue tie, CMPA, or other medical conditions that can cause your baby to drink less than they need. But if you pressure, that will go on and on for a long time. You can get the reflux under control, you can reverse the tongue tie, you can get your baby on a special formula, or you can solve the other problems in other ways. But if you pressured throughout the process, then your baby will keep refusing the bottle. So that's why it's important to know what pressuring is and not do it. So what are the pressuring forms? Over-offering. We talked about previously how to offer the bottle 3 times at a time. Over-offering would be offering 8 times or 10 times at a time. So you would just keep trying to feed your baby. Just imagine yourself, if you say no and there's a person, oh, just eat, just eat, just eat, it will be annoying. So it's annoying for babies too. Or over-offering is when, okay, you do 3 offers at a time, but then you try again in 10 minutes and again in 10 minutes. So you don't give enough time for your baby to be hungry or to just think about something else or do something else for a while. So that's over-offering, and that's annoying. Another form of pressure is swaddling, restricting your baby's movement. Maybe your baby's hands are all over the place, so you swaddle your baby while feeding to make sure that you can put the nipple in your baby's mouth, which may work in short term, but long term it can cause issues because you are taking away your baby's choice to say no, or restricting movement in other ways. Like, for example, you feed your baby in a cradle position and you put her arm under your arm and then just hold it down so she has only one hand free and the other one is held down. That's a form of pressure. There's the obvious way of pressuring is when forcing your baby to take the nipple. So your baby doesn't open his mouth or opens his mouth just slightly, and then you use your own strength to just shove the nipple in. That's forcing. That's forcing the nipple in your baby's mouth, and that will cause problems. There is probably a surprising way of pressuring that I see is the most common one, is distracting your baby to feed. For example, you put some nursery rhymes on, or you bounce, rock, walk around, or I've seen daddies dancing and making sounds while mom is feeding the baby. So everything that would remove your baby's attention from feeding is distraction, or sound machine, darkness. Singing is fine. If you sing a song, not to distract your baby, just to create a good, enjoyable atmosphere for both of you, a little singing is fine. But if you are singing to distract your baby, it's a fast song or loud, then it's not fine. So everything else is distraction. We want the baby's attention on feedings because one is that's the right thing to do. Your baby is a person, so work with your baby as a team. And the other is that if there is an issue, then you will immediately find it, recognize it, because, oh, my baby doesn't want the milk and it's been 5 days. There must be something going on. But if you keep distracting, you won't know if there's any problem. And also, the baby, you will have to, first of all, you will have to change what you are doing all the time, and your baby will know what's going on, and it will lead to long-term feeding struggles. Another form of pressure is when you feed your baby when crying. Once in a while it's fine. Let's say your baby is just too hungry and nothing calms him down, only the bottle, that's fine. But if most of your feedings start with crying, your baby can link bad feelings to feedings, and that will lead to long-term struggles. So first, calm your baby down. We talked about it in the how to offer part. Calm your baby down and then offer the bottle. Because your baby may be crying for something else. Maybe he wants comfort. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he has a dirty diaper. So if you always try to feed when your baby is hungry, first of all, you don't know why he's crying. And the other one, your baby may not want it. It's easy for you because, oh, the mouth is open, so I just shoved the nipple in. I did it myself, so no judgment here. That was easy. My baby's mouth was open and she couldn't help it but close it on and suck the milk. So wait for your baby to calm down and then offer the bottle. Not stopping when your baby says no is a form of pressure. What I mean by it is you start feeding your baby, he took the bottle, but after a while he starts refusing the bottle. He can do it in different ways, for example, moving his head to the side or pushing it out with his tongue or pushing it away with his hand, or just stop sucking, chewing on the nipple, or trying to move away from the nipple, like pushing against the pillow or your arm wherever you feed him. So there are different ways your baby may say no to the feeding. And if you don't stop when that happens, that's a form of pressure. So imagine yourself, you want to stop eating, but somebody just keeps the food in your mouth. That would be a horrible experience. That's the same for your baby. So that's a strong way of pressuring. Like if you just keep the nipple in your baby's mouth for 1 or 2 minutes just to wait for him to start sucking again, that's like trying to get him to drink. We don't want to get our babies to drink. We want to support them if they want to drink, but not pressure them to drink. And the last form of pressure is dream feeding. Dream feeding is when you feed your baby when drowsy or asleep. Once or twice throughout the night is fine. It's normal. But during the day, all feeding should be fully awake. If once in a while your baby is drowsy, that's fine. But other feedings should be fully awake, because first of all, it will be harder and harder when your baby has less and less naps to feed your baby, if that's the only way you can feed your baby. And your baby will be older, and then they may not let you dream feed after a while, so you will be stuck how to feed your baby. And if your baby doesn't drink when awake, there is a problem. So there are no babies who just dream feeders. There is always a problem, so please find a cause, take your baby to your pediatrician, and if they can't help, then don't stop. Go to a feeding therapist, an occupational therapist, find a cause, because if your baby doesn't drink fully awake, there is a problem. So these are the main ways you could pressure your baby, and these are the ways I find cause long-term struggles, and also these are the things that stop from recovering from these problems, for example, bottle aversion. So no distraction, no pressure while feeding your baby, and that will help you create an enjoyable experience with your baby, and you can bond way more during feedings. This is everything I wanted to share, and please know that there will be times when your baby will refuse the bottle, It could be teething, it could be sickness, it could be milestone, it could be some underlying conditions you haven't discovered yet. It could be many things, especially in the first year. There are so many things happening and there are so many changes, and you can do all the right things. Your baby will still refuse the bottle sometimes, or some days he will drink less, some days he will drink more, and it's okay, it's normal. And the key is not to pressure your baby. So give your baby some time to recover. Typically it's a few days and babies get back on track. If it's more than few days, then take your baby to your doctor and find the cause, but not pressure. Pressuring is never the solution. Thank you for watching. Thank you for learning with me. Good luck on your feeding journey, and I hope I will hear from you somewhere, sometime.